All right, and we're live again for another episode of Inside the Mind of. Kahit sinisipon, game tayo dyan, di ba? So we are now at episode 23, and we are talking about, again, we love this topic. It's about relationships. Okay? Kasi for the past episodes, nakikita natin na um, a lot of people are going through something, and they're mostly connected to relationships. Tama ba? And minsan, the main problems are infidelity. So today, let's talk about fidelity, infidelity. Let's talk about those stuff. Okay? And again, let me introduce our lovely guest right now, Sameera. Welcome, Sameera.
Hello, everybody. How are
There.
you? I'm
What's
there.
up?
Can
What's
you
up?
see? Can you
Yeah.
find me? Can you see me?
Yeah,
I
let
don't.
me let me check. Let me check. Yeah, we're just checking on our Facebook timelines right now because yeah, it's live. Perfect. I see it. Do you see it on your timeline now, Samir?
I do see it on my timeline.
Okay,
Yes.
it's good. It's good because guys, for the last two sessions that we did, we had some technical difficulties, but now we're all good. So let's move forward. So let me first tell you guys something about our guest. Huh? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought my wife was calling me. So yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. So Samira is an internationally certified mind wellness coach. She's a certified master NLP. Okay, not just a normal practitioner. She's a master NLP practitioner and also a certified clinical hypnotherapist and has a master's in psychology. Kaya she has a very vast knowledge about our topics right now. So she works with mood disorders like depression, anxiety, bipolar, learning disabilities, also PTSD, and borderline personality disorders. She specializes in depression, anxiety, and relationship counseling. So, guys, if you have any questions in regards to your concerns with your relationships, previous infidelities, or recent na panloloko or anything like that, feel free to comment in, and we'd be glad to actually talk about your situation or what you're going through. Okay, so Samira, what's in store for us? Let's discuss our first topic for today, which is modern pitfalls in a relationship. Yeah, tell us more about that.
So I'm trying to also sort of put it on my stuff that's coming there. Sorry about that. Okay. So modern pitfalls in rather pitfalls in a modern relationship. So it really starts with uh, how did you start or begin with your relationship? What was really in your mind? It really depends upon how you looked at your relationship when you really started it. How long did you want it? How much were you committed? How much did you set up the boundaries? What was your intent? Did you have a relationship with somebody you wanted, or did you have a relationship with someone you should have had a relationship with? So there are just too many questions to be answered if ever we want to, decide not to have a pitfall in our current relationship. Another thing that's really, really important, which I feel that, is extremely detrimental of what kind of relationship we are getting into, is what are your goals for your relationship? It really talks about a lot of I think it's a lot of seriousness involved in telling your people as to how much you really think that your goals are important in the relationship. So most of the times it is the intimacy that sort of starts the relationship, right? Like, you really find it very amazing to be with certain people, the way they talk, they complete you. You want to be with them, and then there is this one point that comes where you feel that that intimacy is lacking. That things are just normal. There isn't anything much
Is
about
there
it.
is there a timeline for that, Samira, or it's just a random time that you feel that?
You know what the timeline for it's a very interesting question. So the timeline for it really starts from the word get go,
Mm-hmm.
and the timeline for it would end as soon as we decide to say start taking either of the partners for granted.
Mm.
That's when things start so taken for granted, or not being appreciated or recognized or accepted as a partner is the biggest blow to the entire thing that's really happening.
Okay.
So that's when the countdown really starts, according to me, right?
Yeah, because as there's been a saying in regards to relationships here. I'm not really sure if it's worldwide or just here in the Philippines that you could probably check with your partner after 6 months. Okay. And then you could check your feelings after that if it would go the long run, or you could see the real behaviors coming out. Yeah, that's that's one thing. Yeah.
Mhm. I'll tell you what, I think the way I would look at it is um, see, it's good to keep the end in mind,
Uh-huh.
but will I play a relationship based on end in mind? Maybe not. I mean, I would like to focus my energies on how I'm going to keep this relationship. Because if my energies are focused on how I'm not going to lose this relationship, that's when I'll start critically examining this relationship. Now, I
Oh.
don't know how many of the people who are watching us today are the people who watched us last time, but I must mention this. If you guys remember, I had I had mentioned this in our last the relationship thing, when I talked about laws of attraction.
Mhm.
I had mentioned that to, so the biggest pitfall of today's modern relationships is the expectations and the amount of expectations that we have from this one person. And I had mentioned it the last time that we want our partners to be our best friends. We want them to be our recognizers, our acceptors, our best friends, people who
Mhm.
listen to us, who also give us the best advice, who recognize us, accept us, share with us their own emotional drama, and are able to, accept whatever we give them as maybe suggestions, look at us as egalitarian, but at the same time are very caring and loving. So, this plethora of expectations, and that too in a continuum, which is like opposite, becomes a little, hard, I believe. And therefore,
Yeah, I took note of it. Not just
Mhm.
expectations, but also the amount of expectations.
And
That's
also, some of those are not actually there. Some of the expectations are not really even said. Some of the expectations are supposed to be just there. That's it. Like they're what I call the unsaid expectations that are going on.
yeah. That's in regards to unsaid expectations. I mean, I've as we work with a lot of people who are really having problems with their relationships, it's
Mhm.
mostly about those unsaid expectations. Are there specific ways on how to make those unsaid be said?
Yes, and see, it's not that the couples don't try it, they do. And those unsaid expectations usually come out during the conflicts. That's when you
Oh,
say things like, oh, you know what, I expected you to do this. So most of the times, those are those unsaid expectations that you expected your partner to already know or understand and even fulfill, but you didn't care to really tell him because you wanted him to understand them.
mhm.
And usually it is, and it's not only women, it's even men who have these expectations. And more
Yeah.
so I've been doing some research in the Philippines culture, in terms of couples, and what I've understood is that a lot of, and this is coming from a man, okay, a
All
Filipino
right.
man. So I was doing this research. I'm actually also doing a project on single parenting. So I
Mm.
do talk to people about their couples and why did they separate, etc. And most of the times, what men have told me is that they separate because they are done or they're fed up with the continuous insecurity and nagging of the you know it's like
Yeah.
it's like it's and your question sort of and that's why I picked up that question, and I said that if I'm starting a relationship, I'm not going to look at it as if how is it that I don't end up ending it. So after 6 months, I would not like to see why I should end the relationship, but during the 6 months, I would know what are the goals I want to accomplish by the end of 6 months with this partner that I have,
Mhm.
and see if I'm able to really do it. And if I'm not able to do it, are those lethal components that I cannot live with?
Uh-huh.
Or can I live with not meeting those goals because I just had so much fun in the last 6 months in the journey that I had with my partner? So which is
Mm.
more important, the journey or the whatever you wanted to accomplish? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not saying that whatever you wanted to accomplish is also, of course, important, and that's why it's there. But sometimes when our journey is very beautiful, even if we haven't, achieved everything we wanted to achieve,
Mhm.
we're still able to sort of, be okay with it,
Oh. All right.
isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
We kind of sort of are still okay, fine, because the journey was beautiful, I can give this more time, right? Because I'm going to enjoy more time in the journey then. Yeah.
I'm looking at the questions because um at first we were discussing, you got to ask yourself this, what's your intent with the relationship, what are your goals. Most of the time, in a normal relationship, these are the
Mhm.
questions that are not asked. I mean, but are expected.
Indeed.
But everyone has their own belief on their intention of their relationship. Of course,
Mhm.
you would enter a relationship to be a long-term relationship, of course, but it's not communicated. That's the one thing. But there are always expectations with this, right?
Absolutely. I mean, those are still relationships with humans. You try and make a relationship with even a cat. You have expectations with the cat, isn't it? That she's going to listen to you. She's going to eat
But no,
food,
but no.
right? I mean, forget the cat. I mean, even if you buy a pen, you already expect it to write, don't you?
Yeah.
So, yes, there are a plethora of unsaid expectations, and throughout history and throughout all, across all cultures and across all natures of relationships, whether it is single, whether it is same sex, whether it is transgender, whether it is heterosexual, fidelity is one of the biggest expectation. And it is the expectations across all kinds of relationship, whether it is a relationship that you have where you are already dating a husband, you
Mm-hmm.
expect that husband to still be very, very, loyal to you, although you know very well that he is cheating the wife. So, fidelity is that kind of expectation. It's a very unsaid, but a very robust and a very basic expectation of any relationship.
Well, in
And therefore,
regards to, oh yeah, sorry, I got you off. Sorry for that. Yeah, you could continue the thought. I was just gonna ask
I think,
about fidelity. Yeah.
yes, I think that's where, yeah, and therefore it's very important to, describe fidelity in a relationship. So many times, people would come for therapy and say that, oh, you know what, I think our relationship has already, hit bedrock because bottom because we don't really talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I asked them, okay, so what is it that you want to talk about to each other? So, for example, if the wife would say this to me, I would ask the wife, so what exactly do you want your husband to speak about to you? And she would say, well, I would want him to discuss the work problems and things like that. And then the husband would jump in and say, well, you know what, when I discuss my work problems with her, she tends to give me suggestions which I know are not applicable, and then we end up fighting. And this is funny because when you say that, people don't really talk about their expectations on relationships, but they do want to talk about, how you are, what kind of problems you're facing at work or somewhere else. Now, look at what is it talking about human relationships? How is it evolving?
Mm-hmm.
So we are trying to, we're in, first of all, what we need to understand is why we like to talk. Why do we have a Facebook and a Twitter, and then we also have a WhatsApp and a Viber, and then we also have a Snapchat and a Instagram, and the world is going crazy clicking the best picture they can for Instagram. Sometimes I feel pressured about it, by the way, but yeah. Anyway, so going to, fidelity, going to what I was talking about in terms of why is talking so important, or why the social frenzy is there, is because we have this inapt and uncontrollable urge to connect, to be a part of a group, to be a part and be accepted by a community and whatnot. And that's why, when we put all those expectations to our partners, we want our partners to really talk. And if your partner is a man, the chances are that you're going to listen to less of talk, because that's not how men connect. The way men connect, the best way a man can connect is through intimacy and through sex, because that's the best way to provide the expression of care and love and satisfaction. Unfortunately, sex also became about performance, right? Sex is now not feeling, it's a function, So because sex is more of a function, it brings the idea of dysfunctional also. Well, that's a separate discussion, but yeah. So going back to fidelity, yeah, that's one of the things you can really, that's one of the expectation you can really talk about to your partner. So if in case everybody who's listening to us right now, if you really don't know what is it that you should talk about, this is one of those.
Yeah, in regards to fidelity, how similar is it to other words like honesty and being a traitor? Or I mean, um, it's there's lots of things connected to it. What makes fidelity something important in a relationship?
Yeah, sure. Isn't it the most important, Ken?
Yeah,
Like
a lot of people would say trust, trust, but it's a very big word also.
Sure. So here's how fidelity is defined. Like if I pick up from a dictionary. So our societies, most of our societies and cultures have become monogamous. And fidelity is described as the tendency of the two partners in the monogamy to really be loyal and honest with each other in terms of not looking out for the same satisfaction they look into this relationship they decided to have with their monogamous partner. And infidelity is when one of the partners in the monogamous relationship decides to look out for another,
A different
for the same
relationship.
satisfaction, right? Yeah, out of the relationship, for the
Out of
same
the relationship.
satisfaction they wanted to have in this relationship, out of the relationship. I'll have to go back again, Ken. That's why the expectations are important, right? For example, I am in a, and here's how each couple defines their fidelity, right? Like, for example, I do appreciate my partner, and I love to have a lot of fun with her, and I feel that we're completely compatible when it comes to sex and intercourse. But I have set up an expectation with my partner where I feel that it's when I want to connect emotionally with someone about a certain aspect of my life, it will be someone else that I'll be going to. That could be one expectation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, the other expectation could be in partners. There's a lot of partners who don't think that watching porn is infidelity. But for some partners, watching porn is infidelity.
I have an intriguing question in regards to that, because in regards to, like, I had a couple of friends that have this belief, okay, that when you do casual sex with a prostitute, it's not infidelity. I mean, what they're saying was, there's no emotions to it, and they're just satisfying the feeling. That's what they say. It's not cheating. It's not infidelity. But I think I'm standing on the other side of the fence with that, because I do think that it depends on the perception. If the partner or the wife knows about it, it couldn't it's okay. But if the other person doesn't know about it, that's cheating.
See, now that's again another definition of fidelity, isn't it? Possibly is your definition of fidelity. And it can be absolutely subjective. And as a therapist, right, as a therapist, my job is to bring the couples together and have that defined. Now, you're just stopping at, what you were referring to, Ken. Remember when we were talking about this, I was talking about the shadow of the third.
Yeah.
Trust me, sometimes, most of the times, the burden of a relationship is so heavy with finances and jobs and professions and aspirations and kids and their studies, etc., that you need not only one or two people in a relationship, you sometimes need a shadow of the third. And a lot of relationships use the shadow of the third to bring back their eros, or bring back their eroticism and adventure in life. I think everybody is aware of how it works with, some people even go ahead and do wife swapping, don't they? That's another example of how you bring the eroticism. Now, again, I'm a therapist, guys. I'm not supposed to judge what's right, what's wrong. But what I'm trying to say is that there was a time when same-sex marriages or same-sex affairs or same-sex relationships were not normal. They're normal today. There was a time when cohabitation was not a concept. It's legal today. So it's, if there is one thing that has changed is the acceptability of the kinds of relationships and the things we do in the relationship. So maybe at one point in time, we need to accept that a shadow of third really makes your relationship spiced up.
Yeah. And in regards to infidelity, since that's our main topic today,
Mhm.
how can you say that a person is cheating on you already? I mean, how can you say that? I mean, being how can you say that a person's being in I don't know if it's grammatically
Infidel.
correct. An
Infidel.
infidel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true then.
Well, it depends on you. So, for example, and it depends upon you in a sense that what are the rules did you make? What boundaries did you make when you made a relationship? Right. So, when you made the boundaries, did your boundary encompass that, my partner is not going to even say, do any exchange text messages to any female ever till the time this person is with me? Or
Mm-hmm.
was it that, he could flirt, but that much is okay, but that's that? Or was it that, like you gave an example of going to a prostitute and just having a sexual intercourse instead of having an emotional intervention, which which we really call the EMI. It's an extramarital intervention. That's it, not an affair. Or if, for example, it depends upon where did you put that boundary. And so this is one of the very important expectations. And that's one side of the expectations. Okay, so if you will do this, this would be infidelity for me. That's one side of expectation. The other side,
Mm-hmm.
because the other person also would want to tell you, when is it that this person is more susceptible to seek what he should be seeking in this monogamous relationship, but would seek it outside? So, what are his expectations that are non negotiables, that when they would not be met, this person would go out and seek them outside?
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because I think I had a client for mentoring before, and that was the problem. The problem was he was saying that maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I'm not giving. Maybe my girlfriend will look for a different person because I couldn't give her this. I mean, just sharing with that. I'm just thinking
Mhm.
about it. Yeah.
Right. So, and at that point in time, it's important for the couples, and I always encourage the couples to do a little, activity
Mm-hmm.
in which we sort of, guess expectations from each other, and see how much are we aware of what our partner really wants from us. Because, the time when we decide and assume that our unsaid expectations have been understood is when we start nagging and criticizing people or being critical of them for not meeting it. And that's unfair because there hasn't been any work done on knowing them. That's one, and knowing the boundaries too. Uh,
Yeah.
I have a question. I mean, I have so many people. I'm sure I have some viewers here, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to just ask them a question. How
Yeah.
many times do you talk to your partners about your boundaries? How many times do we speak to them about our non-negotiables or negotiables for that matter? And I'm not talking about fidelity only. I'm talking about the relationship itself.
That's the
What do you-
question, guys. So, kinakausap niyo ba yung partners ninyo? Or wala lang, pinapabayaan niyo lang kasi yeah, most of the time it has it's always been a problem in regards to that because communication is always something that's really tricky, mostly here in the Philippines for couples, probably all over the world, but um as that's a question that you could ask yourself right now. Yeah, just yeah, comment na lang kayo, man. Or are you even in a relationship right now? Yeah, I have some friends joining in. Si Ruth, hi Ruth, welcome. Jay, welcome again. Sino pa nandito? Si Charmaine, hi. Sino pa nandito? Let me just acknowledge some friends. Yet, and then si Joy, hi. Si Marlon, Blisilda, Michaela, hi, welcome. Thanks for sharing though. Si Mark, wahoy, pare idol. Si Kuya Dondon, Vons, JDN, Tita Norms, hi, si Ai, nandyan din. So, si
Wow, wow,
Benjamin.
wow. That's a lot of people. Thank you so much for joining in.
Oh, yeah. So, in regards to yeah, yes, communication is the key to long-lasting relationship. But yeah, and again, Ruth, yung tanong ni Shamira, when was the last time you actually communicated yung
Are
mga
you
boundaries? Yeah. Yeah, what was the question again, Samira? So that yeah, we could bridge it again.
sure? So my question was, so how many times have you spoken to your partner about the negotiables or non-negotiables in the relationship, whether it was, you know, fidelity, or whether it was boundaries, whether it was your relationship as a whole? How many times have you really spoken to your partner and said that, okay, these are the things that I will not negotiate, and these are the things I will?
Okay, yeah, probably. So, since I'll probably answer that on my end first. On my end, Samira, me and my wife, when we were just girlfriend and boyfriend, we talked about it. We always talk about it because well, it's cheating because I'm a coach too, so I know most of the time the problems in the relationship would be about communication. So we always talk about our boundaries, specifically not just rules, of course, but um, what we feel is right for the both of us. And
Mm-hmm.
we've set some specifics like individuality. So we started understanding about our wants and goals for ourselves first, and defined also our wants and goals as partners. So that's different. So at least at the same time, I'm doing what I want to do. She does what she wants to do, and we just support each other with that. That's communicated early on in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But here is the question. Here is the question. Why do people engage into, say, infidelity? Let's talk about that a bit, because that's important, right?
Mhm.
So the reason why people engage into infidelity is when what they were seeking in the relationship did not really happen, or has stopped happening, or has become very low on intensity, right? Like, for example, that's why, there is a midlife crisis, and
Mhm.
there is a reason why people just move out of a relationship or end it, right? So
Mhm.
while we good if we have already gone ahead and communicated our expectations, the next step to it is to figure out if those expectations have changed. That's one.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the other thing is to figure out, uh, sorry about that. And then it is also to figure out whether or not these expectations that have changed have also changed in your partner, because we got rid of certain patterns or certain belief systems. Because it's not that we remain as the same human beings, right? We
Mhm.
change. We change because we learn from experiences. We work on our, say, weaknesses. We sharpen our strengths. We realize the importance, or say, non-importance of certain relationships.
Mhm.
We become maybe more lonelier, or we become more social, etc., etc. Our expectations, or rather our aspirations from our own self, change, right? So the next step is really in a relationship to see if something has changed, and is my partner still as satisfied as he was? is he expecting me to do the same things as he was maybe trying to do earlier? And also to understand and be very conscious of the very important two factors in any relationship, which is intimacy and eroticism. You know, and see if my intimacy has become something very monotonous, something that I don't really look forward to anymore, or I don't prioritize it. Yeah. Do I prioritize talking to my partner now and then, etc., etc., so that I know whether her emotional needs are really met or not? That's very important.
Okay. Yep. Because other reasons for infidelity are probably, could it be also environment? I mean, um, temptation, out there.
Well, see, of course, I mean, and we're looking at a demography which is pretty, when it comes to Philippines, it's pretty imbalanced. We're looking at a lot of choices. We are looking at easy choices. We are also looking at availability, and we're also looking at pretty choices. So, yes, environment and demography is a factor. After some point in time, and it's not a great news, it will also be the culture and the society, because the generation today has seen their parents debunking or not being loyal. So the chances, although yeah, there are chances that they will be loyal because they would not like to possibly repeat what has happened. But there are also chances that the society will and is, to some extent, growing tolerance to it, isn't it? Aren't we growing tolerance to cheating and infidelity?
Yeah, it's like something normal right now. That men and women would cheat, mostly in the workplace. I mean, that's really something. Like right now, there are lots of apps in where you could connect with other people. Even there are also groups in where you could actually cheat. I mean, it's a thing that there are some people that would like to have relations with people who have other partners. There's a thrill to it. I mean, I don't know why it's becoming normal right now, but since it's their trip. I mean, fuck it. I mean, if that's what you like, go with it.
But it's important to understand why that's happening, and it's also very important to understand the consequences of it. Now, for once, it might just look that it's very fun, that it's interesting, that it's adventurous, etc. But it's also stressful. It's also expensive to some extent. It's also, at one point in time, not very satisfying. It is also, at some point in time, not stabilizing and grounding. And most of the times, people gravitate towards these things, right? We gravitate towards being grounded or secured and stable and etc., right? So we might be dotting on the surface, I'm sorry, and wanting to see whether, there's more adventure, and if more adventure is better than stability. But the reason why we're looking for more and more adventure is to find the stability in that adventure. Isn't
okay.
it? Yeah. So which one, right? Which one am I going to stop? Because that would be the most adventurous, isn't it?
Adventure. Yeah, that's a good word. I mean, when is there a word right now that you could use, like contentment?
Yes, we could. Like, when is it that I'll be most contented? Which adventure will I be most contented in? Is that what we're seeking? because that's what these websites or these chat groups mean to me, that we're looking for the adventure we'll be more contented with. And well, you know, at some point in time, we need to stop as a society or as a community and as a country and see the impact of these actions on our generation next, you know. Do we want a generation that does not believe in relationships? They have trust issues. They have anxiety. They don't believe in loyalty. They do not understand the importance of stability. They do not think that relationships should also be about communication, trust, honesty, transparency, and a lot of intimacy, and not only about functions and roles and finances and adventure and everything else that we seek outside, right? So
Yeah. It's a very big spectrum. I mean, as you're saying all the details, there's a lot of things that should be considered in a relationship. So yeah, in terms of, I'm just thinking hypothetically here. For example, Samira, we're talking to a person that has been cheated on already by their partner. They're still together. So, what? How can you heal yourself? Do you need to fix it? Do you need to fix your mindset, or how do you work with it?
Thanks for asking that question. So the person who's cheated, what we call it is the discovery phase. So there are 3 phases of treatment for infidelity. So of course, you know, the person who's cheated on goes through, the first thing he goes through is the trauma of being cheated. So if you would do a survey on people who've been cheated and you ask them, okay, what was the most painful? It would not be the fact that, you know, their partner went ahead and slept with someone else or something. It is the fact that they trusted someone and they were cheated on and their trust was broken, which basically means that, you know, people are more sensitive to their trust being broken. And therefore, they start doubting their ability to trust the right people, you know. So the first part of the treatment is about how to bring that faith back, okay? The second part of the treatment is about dwelling into the causes of infidelity. So why did the person cheat on you, or why does this person have the tendency to cheat? Most of the times when we work with couples who faced this difficult time, the person would, you know, usually the person who cheats on you, usually they're not guilty. They always have a reason, of maybe discontentment with the current relationship, partner, the amount of time, the amount of money, the emotional connection, etc. And therefore, it becomes very important for us to understand whether the other partner who's been cheated on agrees to these causes to some extent, you know, and does not consider them as only excuses. Because if that's the case, if it's only excuses, then it's very difficult to really, you know, get them back together. But if the partner does agree that, yeah, I mean, the marriage was sort of, you know, going through a phase and we needed to do something and we didn't, then you can work on that marriage and move to the final phase, which is of reconciling, you know, the bond. As a therapist, I think that the people who are able to cross the first phase, which is to bring themselves back to start trusting, are the people who are able to work on the third phase efficiently. Of course, right? Because they've figured out how to trust in their ability to trust others. So if you are, and it's important that all, when you're doing the therapy, all these three phases sort of go pretty successfully. And it's not that, once the first phase is over, people never go back to the first phase. They do, especially when you're on the third phase and you're trying to do repair work. Clients would usually go back to the first phase and say that, oh, you know what's the use of making this effort? What if I trust this person and he breaks it again? And so you have to work a little again in the first phase and bring this person back to the third phase. So it's very interesting how, and how many a times a couple that has faced infidelity would actually end up being better married couples. See, the impact, or rather the objective of treatment for infidelity are two objectives. One is that you'll have a better marriage, which I hope happens, or you'll have a better divorce. So yes, there are two. So what as a therapist I do is I leave them to decide on the intensity of each phase. So how much with intensity did you let go and forgave yourself for trusting your partner in the first phase, for that matter, or in the second phase? How much did you let go of your belief systems and accepted, and both the partners accepted what they did that did not make their marriage content? Then work on that. And then the third one is to see what can we do and how can we either, manipulate or change certain belief systems so that we can fix the marriage for better. So depending upon how they do on each phase and what they reflect on, it's either a better marriage or it's a better divorce.
Well, yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, probably I that's one approach that it's very, very appropriate for couples here. The problem here is, in regards to the law, there's no divorce here yet. That's
annulment.
Yeah, annulment. Yeah, that's the thing here. Yeah.
Even better separation, especially if there are kids involved.
Yeah. What's in regards to kids involved? I mean, how do you? What's your approach to that? I mean, if they want to actually go their separate ways already, but there's kids involved. I mean, what's your viewpoint on that?
So the conversation now is going towards separation from infidelity.
Yeah, I think we could just.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But yeah. I would again urge, I feel, and I have noticed this a couple of times, when it comes to relationships, our thought process is going towards ending it. I would want it to go towards nurturing it. And
nurturing.
Talk more about it. But yes, so for example, if there are kids involved, depending upon the age group of the kids, and usually things of these sort, or people who really, opt for therapy or look at really making things better are people in their mid-30s or 40s. And usually the kids are reaching adolescence by then. Or are crossing their teens. It's very important to involve. It is very important to then create a space for not only, couples therapy, but actually sort of a family therapy.
A family therapy, yeah.
Right. To make it's very important for especially the teenagers to reestablish their faith in trusting people in relationships. Well, this is just reminding me of one of my clients who was talking to me, and he was telling me how trust is an issue for him because he had two of his very close family members cheating, and he was involved in relationships with them, and such if such be the case, it's important to also give the child the opportunity to accept an apology, because whatever the reasons may be, the thing here is that what was very very volatile and dynamic was broken, and that was trust, and that was rules, and those were, I mean, let's just face it, even in the Bible, out of the 10 commandments, 2 of them talk about infidelity. One is it's a sin for doing it, and the other one is even about thinking it. So it's a part of the structure, and it's very important to have a conversation with the child, and then reestablish his faith in relationships, his trust in others, so that he can have relationships that are attached securely. Most of the times when something like this will happen in a family, you would see that the others in the family would start using dysfunctional attachment styles, like not being available emotionally, or avoiding and attaching, which is including some amount of aggressiveness, which is unreasonable usually. So you would see the impact of such incidences or instances in the attachment styles of your kids. And that's one thing that can be, again, spoken and work with through therapy.
Okay.
You don't need a medicine for that, huh? That needs therapy.
Yeah. Well, in regards to what you said earlier, let's move to nurturing. As we've talked about people cheating left and right nowadays, um, what 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 are the things that we should look at so that we would say to ourselves that this is worth saving?
And that's where it's important for us to acknowledge what has happened in the community. Again, we've seen broken families. We have seen single mothers. We have seen our parents or both the parents cheating. This generation has seen kids not being emotionally attended or cared for. This generation has also seen aspirations and ambitions of their parents coming in the way of simple gestures of love, affection, and closeness. This generation has also seen their parents, if all available, being under the pressure of performing in a certain way to demonstrate great parenthood because the others were doing it. This generation has also faced a lot of loneliness. It has faced a lot of competition. It has faced a lot of demand on proving themselves. It has faced a lot of abuse in terms of drugs and substance use. It has also faced and fought against at times through addiction of porn, video games, social media, Facebook, Instagram. This generation has also gone through a lot of pretensions. It has gone through fighting their status quo, sometimes only to project it on social media.
Yeah.
So a lot of things,
Projected.
this particular generation has done, it has done because the others did it before them,
Mm.
right? Or people who are with them are right now doing it.
It becomes a norm.
Yes. So it
Mm.
becomes sort of kind of becoming a norm. So if I don't do it, I'm an anomaly, even if it is the best thing to do. So look at the pressure. It's coming from the not very right side.
Yeah,
Secondly,
probably one thing that I could say to our friends and viewers right now, the
mhm,
easiest way to actually not commit infidelity is to think about the fucking problems that you're gonna get if you cheat. There's a lot of things that would happen. You gotta face people, you gotta face families, you gotta face a lot of people. But if it's worth it, then go with it. I mean, that's all about it. As a therapist, generally, me and Samira, we're subjective to things. I mean, you're in control of your life. That's for sure. So what you want to do with it, you do with it. But as therapists, of course, you come to us with those problems, and of course, we help you work with those problems so that you could feel good inside and work with your life brilliantly. Yeah, that's that's funny.
that's what we would like to do. So it's important to understand the society pattern, the community pattern. It's also important to know why that's happening. What is the level of, if I would just ask people who are listening to us, I'm going to just ask, okay, what do you do to express self-love, say every day? Do you tell yourself that you're great? Do you tell yourself that you're good enough? Do you feel that way? Do you appreciate yourself? Do you appreciate your partner? What do you do to say create a self-image that you would love, right? And that's where we need to stop as a community and think that, so how much time do I really spend on loving myself or knowing myself or being aware of what I'm doing, etc. And stop there and think about, and that's when, you would actually get the right answers to questions like, if it's worth it. That's when you get the right answers to that question. Is it worth it? Because otherwise, if we do not think about loving ourselves or respecting ourselves or creating a self-image and why it is important, then the answer to, is it worth it, is very easy. Yes, it is, because others are doing it. Because there is no individuality in this anymore. This is more of a herd mentality, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I belong to. I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but I have a cafeteria, like a cafeteria, which is sort of a, what do you call it, an internet cafe.
Yeah.
So you have internet cafes in Cebu, a lot of them. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
them. Okay, so I have this internet cafe that's quite close to my house, and then I usually get my books printed from there. And then whenever I'll go there will be a variety of age group of kids and adults glued to the computer screens. I don't know what they're watching in there, but I hope they're watching something good. But they're watching it. And I'm just wondering if they could just take a break from there and especially, just stop and just hold on and just know what they're doing for themselves. Why is it that they have to engross their mind? It's very important to think. Why is it important for me to engross into a video game and not engross into my partner?
That's a question. Yeah.
Right? Why am I doing that? Why? Or for that matter, okay, leave my partner. Why can't I get engrossed into my own self?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason you would not want to give time to yourself, and see, the reason why you would not give time to your partner is because you somehow feel that you don't possibly connect with them. Ask yourself if that's also the answer for not connecting with yourself, or not engrossing or not giving yourself that time, and giving that time to the video game or the porn or to Netflix. Are you also not connected with yourself?
Yeah, you could ask
Because if
that to yourself. Yeah.
And if you're not, then it's very easy for you to get swayed away by what others are doing, because we just don't know what we want. So we do what others are doing or others want us to do.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? Yeah, we could jump to our next topic. How to insert adventure, yeah, into a relationship, Samira.
You know what? You were talking about the thing that, having sex with a prostitute without an emotional connect. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not encouraging everybody to do that. No, I'm not. But it's an interesting thing to insert the shadow of the third.
Oh, that's what you meant. Okay, now I understand what you meant by the shadow of the third. Yeah.
Right, the shadow of the third. As in, so what is it that you erotically expect your partner to be? And I'm not asking for a costume drama here, please. No, I'm not. I'm referring to how do you increase eroticism in your relationship? And that's such an adventure. So how do you create mystery as a partner around you? And how does your partner create mystery around her? It's so important to have always a part of you that's unknown to your partner. It's just so exciting. I mean, honestly, I have seen that in my relationship a lot of times. A lot of times, my partner doesn't know a lot of things I do. And then at the end of it, I just show him the result. And I think that just increases the interest my partner has in me, because he's amazed at how I can still create certain things in myself he's not aware of.
Yeah.
So look for that. It could be anything. It could be an appearance. It could be a skill. It could be how you deal with a certain situation. It could be, and create mystery around it. And conversation around it. And, these are the things you want to talk to your partner about. I mean, so to people who always come to me and say, we don't talk and we don't know what to talk about to each other, these are the things to talk about. To create a mystery and then let your partner solve that mystery. Now, that mystery could also be about the third person, and this third person might not be really there in your relationship, as in doesn't have to be in your room, but can be in your conversation, can be in your fantasy. Nobody has stopped you from fantasizing, believe me. And we all fantasize. And it's so interesting when couples share their fantasies and tell that, what is it that they really fantasize about, whether it is inside the bedroom or outside it. But it's so interesting because you're bringing the shadow of something that's not there in your relationship right now. And that's possibly is one of the best way to create adventure and increase the eroticism in your relationship. Again, until our viewers have more ideas.
Yeah, that's the shadow of the third, guys. That's something. Yeah. So not just it works a lot with visualization, right?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, what I would do is I would just, and I'm sorry, I'm just tying my hair here now. But yeah, so sometimes, what I would do is I would create, and I'll ensure that I'm talking to other people just to understand what's happening in their relationship, to get ideas of how I could create the shadow of the third.
Okay. Yeah, because would I'm just thinking about it because would this lead to um, infidelity? I mean, thinking about uh, visualizing about other stuff?
This is where you draw a line. This is where you draw the boundaries. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, see, thinking about or fantasizing about what you really want in your relationship, would you call it infidelity? Ken?
No, it's just thoughts.
Those are just
Just thoughts.
thoughts,
It
right?
is just
Till
thoughts.
until you, correct, till until
Until
you
it becomes an
execute those
action.
thoughts with someone else. You're
Mm-hmm.
thinking of executing those thoughts with your partner. But
Oh, with your partner.
possibly, right, but possibly you're bringing those thoughts out of certain other sources outside.
It works. It works even easier if your partner, if you and your partner have a good communication, if you and your partner have open communication. I think this is a good concept that could easily work with the adventure part, because both of you
Indeed.
could specifically say what you want to say. There's no actually limits, and that could easily grow your relationship to actually move further, right?
I think it's very important to talk about all of this to your partner, because if you would not talk, possibly you'll practice it with someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's better that you talk about it to your partner. Like, you know what, I the other day I was thinking if we could do this way, and why not? Or, when my ex used to do something like this, I used to really like it, and why not? Why not? I mean, it brings so much of thrill.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you can talk about this to your partner. For and I again repeat, there are too many things that you can really still talk to your partner, even if you're there with them for 6 months, 9 months, 3 years. In my case, I'm with my partner for 20 years. So
Wow, 20 years. That's solid.
yeah,
That's
right. That's
super
too
nice.
solid, my friend.
Yeah, yeah. At least you have the real experience to actually work with relationship counseling. And I'm just looking at my notes here about what we were talking about earlier. We were discussing about what you actually are doing right now, which is premarital counseling. Uh, if you could tell
Right.
us more about it, I mean, why do we need premarital counseling, and who needs this?
Why anybody who's planning to go into a long-term relationship, anyone who's about to answer the question whether they would want to marry or not, anybody who is about to pop the question, anyone who is scared of getting into a long-term relationship or is anxious about it, or anyone who's not serious about or is not able to figure out why is it to be serious in a long-term relationship, can really attend this. So this is a workshop. I call this workshop as before you say yes I do, and the workshop really it's really 2 hours sessions spread on 2 days, and then we're going to do another 2 days after a month, after we sort of do our engagements in terms of observations, to see whether you implemented the tools and the communication patterns we gave you. The
Mm-hmm.
intent or the objective of the program really is to provide people with um, you know with what they should be ready for
Okay.
and what they should be ready with for a successful relationship. So this is not only about marriage, even for couples who are planning to stay in cohabitation
Mm-hmm.
or live in, that's what we call it, can attend this particular workshop. So what is it that you would need to have in this to have in this relationship, and what is it that you need to do? So we will work on both of these. So what are the skills or personality traits, or say for example, strengths or character strengths that you need to have,
Mm-hmm.
and what is it that you need to do with them, Because remember, you're not marrying the person, or you're not, your partner is not a person who should be your partner, in a sense that a partner who completely complements you in every way. But this is more who you want your partner to be, right? As in, you decided that this would be my partner. Now, he could be anyone. Now, how compatible he is to you, we're doing that sort of a workshop. That
In,
so that Yeah.
yeah, in regards to that, because I'm thinking as you're explaining how this works, um, do should one person attend it, or should they attend it as a couple?
It's better if they attend it as a couple. I would suggest that they do attend it as a couple. But if the partner is not ready to be there, I think it's a very good idea to attend it as, at least the first portion of it as a single person, and then possibly bring your partner in the last two segments so that we can do couple work with them.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking about it because
So the program is very interestingly designed. I mean, so this has a gap of 4 weeks in between, which is full of interventions, one-on-one interventions, and certain videos or certain recordings that would be asked from you or given to you, just to see whether you were able to use the tools or communication patterns or certain other aspects that we take you through. Our objective is to make you ready for what you're going to get into. So before you say, yes, I do, what all do you need to know and figure out about your partner and about yourself, so that you could do all of those things that we spoke about, right? Whether it is boundaries, whether it is unset expectations, whether it is defining certain aspects of a relationship as important and as basic as fidelity, and many others.
I do think it's very, very important. Of course, if you're gonna make that big decision, because I do believe that marriage is a big decision. Before I didn't really care about marriage. Marriage is just something that's culture based, and I do believe that relationships are more important. But yeah, I'm married now, so that's all about it. That's all about it. Yeah. So moving forward, we also talked about in regards to premarital counseling. I mean, when would this be? And if you have details for the program, probably now is a good time to actually share to our friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So the program is in Cebu for now. And we're doing this on September 28th. So it's 1 month, almost 1.5 months. Yeah, almost 1 month, 10 days away. We're doing this at a hotel in Cebu, but not in Manila or anywhere else. But if you have and there is an early bird price of, I think, 2,000 pesos. And if you have the willingness to, then please go ahead and join my page, Talk to Me. It's and you'll have to really look for Win Over Mind, which is my group, and that has the details of it. You will also find the details of this program at Gestalt Wellness Institute, because I am affiliated with the Gestalt Wellness Institute of Southeast Asia. You'll also find the details on their page. Yes.
Nice.
Places you'll find it.
So yeah, for our friends in Cebu that have some questions in regards to this, feel free to message Sameera in regards to it. There's another talking point that we have here about addiction. Tell us something about how you work with addiction.
Okay, so I am I am a certified therapist on brain addiction. Done a course on that from Emory University.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to work with adolescents and adults who have addiction to social media, internet, video games. I'm also working with sex addiction, because the roots to it go to some sort of a mood disorder most of the
Mm-hmm.
times. And mood disorders is my niche too. So yes, so I work with these sort of addictions. It uh, including so I'm currently actually working for a program for substance use addiction treatment for college students.
Mm-hmm.
And this would be rolled out in Cebu, and inshallah would be rolled out in Manila as well. I'm
Yeah.
working with the Gestalt Institute for this particular program. But yes, I do one-on-one. I do take one-on-one counseling cases for social media addiction and video games addiction for adults and kids.
Yeah, that's awesome. In regards to addiction, how can you say that you're an addict already?
Mm. So here's a definition of addiction again. I like to quote definitions and then explain them.
Yeah.
Addiction is considered, you could be addicted to anything till until you know that you're not able to leave it, even if it is having a negative impact in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what is addiction. So it can be addiction of anything, but it is more to do with the fact that you're not able to leave it even when you can clearly see that it's impacting your life negatively.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whether it is, so understand that internet addiction or while even video games is not currently under mental disorders. It's still under research. In the next edition of DSM-5, maybe it will be, DSM-6, it would be. They will have it as a part of, addiction. But most of the times, right now, these are not really disorders, mental disorders, but addiction as a phenomena is definitely a mental health disorder. And most of the times, of course, it is cured with medication to, kind of control your urge to go to what's been addicting you. But many a times, it is really the uh, 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 counseling or psychotherapy, which sort of takes one away from addiction. That's equally required.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I do think that it's very very important that if you are already aware that you're having a hard time with your with what you're going through, like addiction, with mostly with substance abuse and internet, of course, for mostly for kids. Parents would see that. Um, Feel free to message Samira so that actually you could know more about it and you could understand more about it so that you could take precautionary measures to it, right?
Sure. I would just request, I mean, please do get in touch with me, but here's what I request. If you could, instead of sending me a message on my Facebook profile, it would be better to connect me through the page or through my group. The links for that are there in the photograph that Ken shared. Maybe after this video, I can put the links for you guys. You can, both the page and the group have the facility for you to reach out to me and my team through a message. And then we can set up either a time for a phone call or, a meeting in my clinic. Please also understand that even if you're in Manila, I do online sessions with my clients. I have clients in India, Dubai, and Singapore. And I have been doing, online sessions. I usually do a Zoom and I record it, and it goes on pretty well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And the best way to reach out to me is really through my page and the group.
All good. So again, Sameera, anything that you want to promote before we end our session for today?
Sure. I'm just looking at a replay of my video and I can see that I'm closing my eyes a lot today. And I'm really sorry, guys. I'm really, really tired. I had a very long day and it has been just like that. And I'm sorry about that. So, here, with my open eyes, you're most welcome to attend my workshop, or rather a small little, retreat, if I could call it. Not a retreat, let's call it a workshop for premarital couples. Or couples who are looking forward to a long relationship, or couples who are trying to avoid it because they don't know what to expect. The objectives for that particular workshop is to really give you all the ammunition and tools to decide. And then once you're decided, give you all the ammunitions and tools to have a beautiful and a flourishing relationship. And also to understand what the pitfalls are and how to get out of those pitfalls if you finally fall onto them, which would happen. Apart from that, I'd love to promote my, my page, Talk to Me Wellness, and my group, Win Over Mind. Please understand the group is Win Over Mind, and everybody wants to do that. So let's just do it. Okay. So yeah, thank you. These are the things that I'd love to promote. Okay. One more thing I'd like to promote is self-love. Guys, just love yourself. Trust me. Everything else just falls in place already.
Agree, 100%. Yeah, self-love is very important. Yeah. So again, guys, appreciate your time joining us today for episode number 23 of Inside the Mind of. My name is Ken Sameera, and these are my thoughts. Have a great night, everyone. Sameera, thank you so much. Message anytime.
Okay? All right, sure. And thank you, everybody. And thanks for joining. It was really nice of you guys to give us this time.
Have a great night. Bye, Sameera.
You too. Bye-bye.